Hello everyone and welcome to my The Bold Fans channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Steffy Forrester Finnegan has spent the last few days navigating the aftermath of her own decisions with a discipline that is fraying. The public revelation of the affair, the pregnancy, Daphne's implosion, Finn's final exit following the spoken name, and the tightening professional restraints within Forrester Creations have left her with almost no residual private ground. In that limited space, she makes a decision that surprises even those who have followed the situation from beginning to end. She seeks Carter Walton out, not for strategy, not for damage control, nor even for the bare minimum of professional collaboration that is still necessary of them, and tells an unexpected revelation that temporarily silences the man who has already taken more fallout from their shared experience than he could have imagined. The confession does not fix anything. It only adds another, heavier layer to a situation that already seems to have reached its maximum. The discussion takes place in a neutral location, purposefully chosen to avoid the ongoing surveillance within the corporation and the residual tension that now pervades the Cliff home. Carter arrives expecting another logistical discussion about the pregnancy, legal timelines, and the narrowing alternatives available to both of them. Instead, he receives a thorough accounting from Steffy, which she has never provided to anyone, not Finn, Taylor, Ridge, or herself, in any cohesive form until now. She does not begin on the night of the initial contact. She starts with the weeks that followed, the private calculations she did once the pregnancy was confirmed, and the decision she almost carried out before Daphne's discovery and Sheila's involvement made further secrecy impossible. The astonishing fact isn't only that she pondered ending her pregnancy. She had already taken the first tangible measures. She'd scheduled the operation. She had arranged for payment and a fictitious name. She had chosen a facility far enough away from Los Angeles to reduce the possibility of recognition. The sole reason the appointment was never maintained was the abrupt increase in external pressure, the confrontation with Daphne, the tightening of Ridge's control, and the realization that too many people already had too much information about the chronology. The confession is delivered with the force of a second betrayal, this time directed at the biological reality they both created and then attempted to handle in isolation. Carter's initial answer is a complete quiet, leaving Steffy wondering if he has processed the remarks at all. When he finally speaks, his inquiries are straightforward and devoid of the elaborate legal wording he typically uses. He wants the dates. He wants to know the decision-making sequence. He wants to know how far the preparation had progressed before the external crisis occurred. Steffy provides the details without embellishments. The clinical vocabulary she uses, facility, confirmation, cancellation, only heightens the emotional effect. Carter is forced to face the fact that the pregnancy he has been treating as a shared, albeit disastrous, reality has been virtually destroyed by a unilateral action he was never supposed to know about. The discussion that ensues is not a negotiation. This is an excavation. Steffy tries to explain the internal logic that led to the near termination, the belief that the child's existence would permanently destroy any remaining chance of limiting the damage, the conviction that Finn's final withdrawal had already ended the marriage, and the fear that Daphne's rage would turn the pregnancy into a permanent public weapon. Carter dismisses the framing without raising his voice. In his opinion, the choice to schedule the procedure while hiding the complete truth from him is a continuation of the same process that resulted in the original night and subsequent quiet. She had yet again chosen management over disclosure. The fact that external factors prevented the procedure from taking place does not invalidate the purpose. What elevates the confession above regular crisis discourse is the secondary truth Steffy is eventually obliged to express. The near termination was more than just a realistic calculation. It was also an attempt to reconcile Carter's emotions. As long as the pregnancy was still a possibility, the bond between them could not be completely severed. Ending it would have turned the entire experience into a closed historical event, regrettable, contained, and completed. The uttered name during the unsuccessful reconciliation with Finn had already shown that the emotional residue remained active. The planned treatment was intended, in part, to eliminate that remnant by removing its most permanent result. Carter sees the logic, but finds it more frightening than a desire to avoid scandal. The exchange progresses from the individual decision to the larger set of choices that led them to this point. Steffy admits that the original night was more than just mutual weakness under the strain of failing marriages. It was also the result of a longer, unseen undercurrent of reliance that neither of them had ever completely identified. Carter has been the person she has turned to when the official systems of her life, marriage, parental authority, and professional hierarchy, have proven untrustworthy. The night after Monaco was the tipping point for reliance, which should never have been approached. The pregnancy transformed that one crossing into a permanent fact. The planned termination was intended to reverse the conversion. The confession acknowledges that the attempt itself was another sort of deception. Carter's own assessment appears in the intervals between Steffy's statements. He has spent the last few weeks dealing with the loss of his marriage, the restriction of his professional function, and the public knowledge of the affair. The new information leads him to reconsider the timeline he thought he knew. While he was dealing with Daphne's retreat and Ridge's oversight, Steffy was secretly working to eliminate the biological consequences of their encounter. The realization results in a greater degree of isolation than anything that came before it. He is no longer simply the man who shared a night and a secret. He is the father whose potential child was nearly destroyed by a decision taken in purposeful seclusion. The practical questions that follow are unavoidable. The pregnancy is still viable. The original concept was abandoned due to exposure. Decisions about the child's future, medical treatment, disclosure to the larger family, and the legal and financial frameworks that will surround its arrival, can no longer be controlled based on the scant knowledge Steffy has previously provided. Carter makes it clear that any future unilateral action will be viewed as the end of any remaining cooperation between them. Steffy accepts the boundaries without arguing. The confession has already removed the last layer of private control she has. Even before the debate is over, secondary implications start to emerge. The basic reality of the meeting, Steffy and Carter in a private location for an extended period of time that cannot be explained by professional necessity, registers with the residual surveillance that is still active around both of them. Finn learns about the encounter through the same informal network that has been tracking the situation throughout its duration. His response is consistent with his previous position. More evidence that the entanglement is still alive, and greater affirmation that disengagement is the only realistic option. He doesn't confront Steffy. He merely adds the information to the closed file he now keeps on the marriage. Daphne learns of the meeting through secondary routes and analyzes it through the lens of every previous conclusion she has reached. The pregnancy, the continued secret, the spoken name, and now a private confession between Steffy and Carter make a continuous narrative in which her own marriage is never the primary point of reference. Her withdrawal remains complete. There is no account of events in which she resumes negotiations. Ridge recognizes the contact as another instance of instability that requires handling. He makes no demands regarding the conversation's substance. He changes the professional protocols once more, significantly limiting the circumstances under which Steffy and Carter can share the same operative area. The company continues to operate. The personal wreckage continues to create secondary expenses, which the institutional system can only partially absorb. Taylor learns about the confession through Steffy's own delayed revelation, and she replies with a complex mix of support and assessment that has defined her role throughout the crisis. She does not downplay the severity of the upcoming termination. She does not abandon her daughter. The chat that follows is one of the few instances in which Steffy can talk without immediate strategic consideration. Even there, the boundaries are evident. Presence is possible. Reversal is not. Sheila, whose previous revelation brought the initial secret into the open, receives the latest events with the quiet attentiveness of someone watching a structure collapse following predictable lines. She does not intervene. She doesn't need to. Each subsequent admission further separates Steffy from the marriage that formerly denied Sheila access, as well as harming Carter's reputation inside the firm that once provided him with institutional cover. The long-term mission of maternal repositioning continues to gain from the harm that others do themselves. The pregnancy remains the basic biological truth, which no confession can change. The original plan to terminate it has been abandoned. The judgments that must now be made, medical, legal, and parental, will take place under conditions of near-complete transparency and distrust. Finn's viewpoint is unchanged. He will not accept further emotional labor. Carter's position is limited by his lack of status in the important relationships on which he previously relied. Steffy's position is defined by her repeated mistakes of judgment, which have left her with almost no remaining private ground. The confession ultimately removes the last managed version of the story. Steffy had finally revealed to Carter the one fact she had kept hidden even after all other layers of concealment had been removed. The planned termination, the unilateral time frame, the attempt to close the emotional ledger by removing the most permanent consequence, it's all out in the open between them now. The knowledge does not result in reconciliation. It creates a more detailed map of the damage. Carter understands the entire procedure. Steffy has exhausted her remaining private tale. What remains is the long, public process of living with realities that can no longer be changed. Confessions have always served as both an end and a beginning in the bold and the beautiful structure. Steffy's choice to tell Carter the incredible truth about how close she was to terminating the pregnancy marks the end of the chapter of unilateral management. It begins the lengthier chapter of shared consequences under complete disclosure. The initial night, the prolonged silence, the pregnancy, the whispered name, and the intended abortion now constitute a single continuous history. They cannot control any later versions of that past. The only remaining question is how each will live in the devastation that the truth has shown. Steffy Forrester may be set to unleash a bombshell that will change everything on the bold and the beautiful. And this time, Carter Walton could be the one to learn the startling truth. If the new spoiler twist occurs, Steffy will find herself in a situation where keeping a secret is no longer an option. What begins as a private talk might soon escalate into one of Los Angeles's most explosive moments, especially when Carter finds Steffy has been carrying something much larger than anyone expected. Steffy has never been one to readily admit when she feels terrified. She is strong, loud, and fiercely protective of those she cares about. However, even Steffy has limitations. When the pressure becomes too severe, secrets have a way of breaking through the barriers that individuals construct around themselves. That could be what occurs when Steffy eventually decides to tell Carter the shocking truth. Carter may initially believe Steffy simply wants to talk business or family issues. After all, the two had crossed paths numerous times through Forrester Creations and the tangled links between the Forrester, Logan, and Spencer families. Carter has also become a go-to person when they need a calming voice in the midst of commotion. Steffy may assume he is one of the few people she can trust with the information she is going to tell. However, Carter will immediately discover that this talk is not like the others. Steffy's emotional state could immediately raise his suspicions. She may hesitate to speak, struggle to find the appropriate words, and consider walking away without saying anything. Carter will definitely persuade her to tell him what's going on. He may vow that everything she says will stay between them. That's when Steffy finally confessed. The main question is what exactly she will reveal. One possibility is that Steffy has learned something surprising regarding a big family secret, which might fundamentally alter how multiple individuals perceive their past. Another possibility is that she has been shielding someone while secretly knowing the truth about a betrayal, a hidden romance, or knowledge that may devastate a family if made public. Whatever the truth is, Steffy's decision to tell Carter indicates that she has reached her breaking point. Imagine Carter's shock when Steffy looks him directly in the eyes and reveals she has known something for a long time. He'd undoubtedly be surprised that she kept such knowledge hidden. Carter is normally one of the more logical characters in the Forrester story. Yet even he may struggle to understand why Steffy chose silent. Steffy may explain that she did not stay silent because she wanted to hurt anyone. Instead, she may say she was trying to safeguard those she cared about. She may have believed that telling the truth would result in an even greater calamity. Unfortunately, secrets rarely remain hidden permanently in Los Angeles. The revelation could also refer to Steffy's marriage and her rocky relationship with Finn. Once Steffi has discovered something that could endanger her family, she may be afraid of what will happen once the truth is revealed. Her primary interest might not be herself. It might be her children and the future she's worked so hard to secure. This would make her confession to Carter much more heartfelt. Carter may question Steffi's decision to inform him now. That query may push her to admit that the circumstances have changed. Perhaps someone else has figured out some of the secret. Perhaps Steffi has received a warning. Or perhaps she has discovered that someone she trusted has been deceiving her. If this is the case, Carter may become an unexpected ally. Carter has had enough family drama to realize that the truth isn't always clear. He has already been stuck between loyalty and honesty. As a result, he may not pass judgment on Steffi right away. Instead, he should ask questions to better comprehend what she knows. However, as Steffi continues to speak, Carter may find that this secret has far-reaching ramifications for practically everyone around them. That is where things get dicey. If Carter learns the truth, he may be forced to make a difficult choice. Does he maintain Steffi's trust, or does he tell someone who has a right to know? His response could decide whether the truth remains buried or becomes the cause for another big Forrester family catastrophe. Steffi might frantically ask Carter not to tell anyone. She may tell him that once the truth is revealed, there is no going back. Relationships could fail. Families could turn on each other. People who assume they are safe may suddenly find their entire life flipped upside down.